Hi everyone, and welcome to the October edition of Price Know-How Snippets. I'm joined by Mike Boswell, Plastinations Managing Director, and Ian Chisnell, who looks after our polyolefins product group. As usual, Mike's going to talk about fundamentals, exchange rates and oil price, and how they could impact polymer prices. And then Ian will follow up looking at monomers and talk to us a little bit about supply and demand. So Mike, over to you.
Thanks, Katherine. I'll start by talking about the change in average prices on oil between August and September. And I'll talk probably a little bit more about current political situation in the Middle East and what that might mean for oil prices. So actually, there was a fair amount of weakness between August and September. The average price dropped from 81.72 to 72.83 per barrel, a drop of $8.88. The minimum dropped from 77.33 to 69.19, a drop of $8.14, and the maximum price dropped from 83.68 to 77.52, a drop of $6.16. For those who prefer our prices in pounds per tonne, that was a drop from £457.29 to £415.08, a drop of £42.20. I know Ian's probably going to come on to talk about that in terms of what's happened in terms of contract monomer prices. In terms of the geopolitical situation in the Middle East, we have seen in the last sort of 48 hours a slight pickup in oil prices. I still think the market views that either the tensions there are going to diminish slightly or the oil supply is adequate to meet with demand, even if we get some disruption. So let's see how that transpires. But certainly it's a dynamic and changing situation, which could have an impact on polymer prices in the coming weeks. Just looking at exchange rates, it's been a story of a strong pound. So against the dollar, we went from an average of 117 in August to 119 in September. That was against the euro, and against the dollar, we went from 129 to 132. So quite a lot of strength in terms of the pound, a little bit of dollar weakness, and that helps in terms of reducing import prices. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Ian, who's going to talk about monomers and what's happening there and the potential changes in the polymer market. Ian.
Many thanks, Mike. As Mike indicated, with oil prices falling, so did naphtha. And the reductions in monomers are pretty much in line with the fall in naphtha. So C2, I think there was some strong negotiation, and they finally settled on a 32.5 euro per metric ton reduction, taking the price from 12.15 euros a ton down to 11.82.5 euros per metric ton. So first time I've seen that for a while, that we get a half a euro reduction. C3 propylene reduced by 35 euros, so it went from 10.95 down to 10.60 euros a ton. This was broadly in line with people's expectations up until, as Mike mentioned, we've seen a little bit of a change in oil prices, and that does remain to be seen how this might affect the spot market for these monomers going forward. It's quite early in the month, and it's expected to be quite dynamic, but initially it does feel like these monomer reductions will be passed through, but that was the overriding sentiment in September. And I think certainly the early indications in October are for these monomer reductions to be passed through. However, there are a lot of factors at the moment. In addition to the disruption in the Middle East, we're also seeing the port strike in the US. This is going to have a particular impact on polyethylene. We in the UK are quite reliant on imports, particularly on LLDPE and HDPE from the USA. So there are going to be some producers and some traders and some companies that are very reliant on US material that are going to be looking to manage their sales, and prices is one of the ways that you can manage your sales if you're concerned about replenishment stock. So whilst the overall message is probably a monomer reduction, we may see some changes towards the end of the month depending on how the port strike gets resolved. Keep in touch with us, because it might change quite quickly.
Thanks very much, Ian. Thank you, Mike. As Ian says, please do keep in touch. The situation is particularly dynamic at the moment. And of course, we'll be putting our further full update out when we issue Price Know-How around the middle of the month. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.